I'll share my screen and let's start. So today I will present, hello everyone. So today I'm going to present on clinical evaluation and post-market clinical follow-up as per Annex 14 of EU MDR 2017-745. Today we're going to talk about what is clinical evaluation, what is the necessity to document it, what are the sources of clinical data for subject device that are considered as a part of CER, and what are the new requirements in MDR. Can you see the screen? Is it visible?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So let's start with this, how the PLC, the product life cycle works. So we design the concept, we plan and perform the design verification, validation, and then we launch and then collect the post-market data. So this is how the product life cycle goes. And we have to perform clinical evaluation on the basis of each step of this PLC. So let's start with that. So what is the clinical evaluation as per MDR Article 244? It's a systematic and planned process to continuously generate, collect, analyze, and assess the data. And what is the purpose of performing a clinical evaluation? To verify the safety and performance, including the clinical benefits of the device when used as intended by the manufacturer. So we're performing clinical evaluation to establish the safety and performance. So whenever we launch any product in the market, we have to assure the notified body that our product is safe for the user and the product performance is perfect as per the guidelines. And also it gives clinical, if at all it has clinical benefits to the patient, so it gives a better clinical benefits to the user. So we have to provide clinical evidence for that, and for that purpose we're doing clinical evaluation. So any product which is not there in the market, or there is some novel design, so we go for several steps like clinical investigation, trials, and we see to it that there is no residual risk. And if any residual risk is there, and if we need to perform corrective and preventive actions, we perform on it. And then we provide the evidence that we have taken all measures to see that the product is going to be safe for the patients. So the main purpose of clinical evaluation is to demonstrate the safety and performance. Now, why should clinical evaluation be documented? So as per Article 5.3, we have to place on the market and put into service. So we have to demonstrate the compliance of our data as per the GSPR checklist, which is Annex 1 of EU MDR 2017-745. So which is given in Article 61. So we have to see to it that we are compliant with general safety and performance requirements, and that is as per Article 61. And as per Article 10.3, the general obligations of manufacturers. So manufacturers shall conduct a clinical evaluation in accordance with the requirements which is set out in Article 61 and Annex 14, which also includes PMCF. So PMCF, that is post-market clinical follow-up. So there are two routes for establishing the safety of the device that we put in the market. So one is clinical investigation, okay, and the other is clinical evaluation. So clinical investigations come into picture whenever the design is novel, and whenever we have any new product which does not have any benchmark device in the market. and the other route is clinical evaluation. So if it's a well-established technology and we have similar design and similar devices in the market, we follow a clinical evaluation route. So when we follow a clinical evaluation route, we have a process of PMCF activities. The PMCF activities is post-market clinical follow-up. So for high-risk devices, PMCF is going to be taken, not for the low-risk devices. So for high-risk devices, when we put our product in the market, like class 2B and class 3, it is a must to have PMCF activity. So in PMCF activity, there are several methods, like we can do a survey, we can after putting the product in the market, we can observe, how it is working with the patients. Are there any side effects or allergies that is coming up, or is there any failure of the device? So we keep following up. There is always a follow-up period for those particular device, which is there in the market. So we collect those data in PMCF activity. So as I told you, we follow two routes. One is clinical evaluation and one is clinical investigation. Okay. So Article 61.1, manufacturer specifies and justifies the level of clinical evidence necessary, appropriate in view of the characteristic of the device and its intended purpose. So manufacturer shall plan, conduct, and document the clinical evaluation in accordance to Article 61 and Part A of Annex 14. So we have to mention the intended clinical benefits. What do you mean by clinical benefits? It means, the device is going to make any positive impact on the patient. So how it is going to benefit the patient, what correction measures your device is going to do in the market on the patients. So that is clinical benefits. So here we have clinical evaluation approach. Then what are the sources of clinical data for the subject device? So as I mentioned before, we have to perform clinical investigation or other studies reported in scientific literature, based on equivalence to the device. So we can also establish the clinical evidence by producing the test reports of an equivalent device. So for low-risk devices, it is as per MDR, we need to sign a contract with the company for demonstrating equivalency. But for low-risk devices, notified body is not that strict. For like class 1 devices, we demonstrate the equivalency without signing the contract if all technical, biological, and clinical characteristics are same. But for high-risk devices, we have to see to it that equivalent device is CE certified as per MDR, and it has all technical, biological, and clinical characteristics same. And if there is slight difference, there has to be some rationale or justification of what difference is found, and that then only you can demonstrate the equivalency. So once you demonstrate the equivalency, you will also get an access to test reports. So you can show the test reports of the benchmark products which is there in the market, and this is how you need not do preclinical testing for your device. So you're following a different route. Instead of doing the testing on your device, you're showing the reports of the benchmark device. So that's how we can give the clinical evidence. And apart from that, this is a qualitative study wherein we go for peer-reviewed scientific literature. So we go for several databases where we try to collect the data. And we also collect the relevant clinical information from PMS data. And of course, PMCF activity which is taking place. So for PMS data, we have several adverse event databases. So first of all, we'll have to check that where our products are going to be sold. Is it going to be sold in US, Australia, New Zealand, Asia, Singapore, Canada? So Based on those inputs, where the sale of the product is there, you're going to collect the adverse event databases data from those particular countries to show the clinical evidence that what are the risks and what are the areas where the device is not working properly, and what control measures the manufacturer has taken to get rid of those risks. So all these device recalls, like we have MHRA, we have MAUDI, FDA database, then we have 𝓣𝓲𝓷𝓪'𝓼 for Germany, then MFDS for Korea. There are several databases. Different countries have their own adverse event databases. Like Saudi has its own database, NMDR. So we have to go to their site and we can collect the data, and that will serve as clinical evidence. And also all the risks from these different databases and all the risks from the literature searches, we're gonna collect it, and we are going to give inputs to the risk analysis file. So we will consider all these risks in risk analysis file, and we have to demonstrate what control measures have been taken for these risks and how the risks have been mitigated. Okay. So this is how it goes. So a clinical evaluation may be based on clinical data relating to a device for which equivalence to the device in question can be demonstrated. So I've already mentioned that we need to have three characteristics for which we have to demonstrate the equivalence, that is technical, biological, and clinical. So for technical, there are several aspects. If you see, if you read MDCG guideline, I think it's 2020-5, if I remember. So if you read that guideline, you will see that what are the characteristics under technical, biological, and clinical. So you have to establish the equivalency for your product with the benchmark product with which you're trying to demonstrate the equivalency. So for technical, we have that device should be of similar design. It has to be used under similar conditions of use. It has similar specification and properties, which includes physiochemical properties, such as, these are just the examples which are given. Uh, then there are similar deployment methods, and it has similar principle of operation and critical performance requirements. So all these comes under technical. And biological, contact, duration of contact should be same, and it has to be similar kind of contact. The device has to be same kind of contact, and then there is if it includes any degradation products and leachables. So if any viable substance is used, or non-viable, so we have to mention all those characteristics under biological. And for clinical, we check if it is used in the similar clinical condition. It's not similar, but it's same clinical condition, which includes similar severity and stage of disease, and it has to be on the same site in the body, and it is used for a similar target population with respect to age, anatomy, physiology. The intended users are same, and its critical performance and clinical effects, clinical benefits are as per the specific intended purpose. So all these characteristics come under clinical. So when you have all these technical, biological, clinical characteristics same, and they are significant, if it is yes, then we go ahead to maintain equivalency. So we have to summarize for all these characteristics together. So when you make a summary, you have to mention that all the technical, biological, and clinical characteristics are significant, and there is no difference in the subject device and the equivalent device. And that's how we are demonstrating the equivalency. And if there is slight difference also, and it is not going to impact the clinical benefit of the patient, so you can give a rationale, like for example, the color is different. So color is not going to impact, on the safety and performance of the device. So that can be mentioned, that there is just a variation in a color, which is not going to affect the safety and performance, and hence it can be considered it can be considered equivalent. Okay. And what are the stages of clinical evaluation as per MDR? So we have different stages. So we define the scope, that is we first of all make a clinical evaluation plan where we put our requirements, and then we identify the pertinent data. And after identifying the data, we are going to appraise the data based on the weightage of the scientific validity. After appraisal, we analyze the data, wherein we summarize the conclusions. And if there are any outstanding issues that require generation clinical data, something missing here. So if there are any outstanding issues or there's any risk that you have found from the data, we put it in the risk analysis file. So if you see in MDCG guideline 2013, in that it is mentioned that you have to provide quantitative and qualitative data, to see to it that there is no risk, and all the risks are covered. So in that point, we have to mention that we have taken the risk from the literature review, and we have given in as inputs into the risk file and where control measures have been taken. And finally, you have to write the CER, the clinical evaluation report. Now, state of art versus safety and performance characteristics. So what is state of art? So state of art has, it's defined differently in the guideline, in MedDev. So there is a certain addition to that, like, it's a current technology which is used. So it is the current technology trend that is used. So it also includes that, and applicable standards and guidance. Then the clinical indications, medical alternatives. Medical alternatives is what are the other alternative treatment methods. So medical alternatives, the intended use may not be same. It may slightly differ. Like I'll give an example, like face mask. Face mask is used for the protection of the user from the environment and other users. So similar to the face mask, we have face shield. So face shield is a medical alternative. So it also protects the patient from the other things. But then you see the design is completely different, and intended use slightly differs, because it face shield covers the entire face and even the eyes, but face mask covers only the nose and mouth. So intended use may differ when you're considering medical alternatives, and it includes benchmark products or existing devices. So what are the existing similar devices in the market? Then what are the benchmark products? Benchmark products means the product which was first launched in the market. So we always see to the pioneers in the market. So we should try to look up to them, and we should try to collect the data from their products. So we will cover all this in state of art. So again, here we are going to generate the clinical evidence by performing safety and by taking safety and performance measures. So we perform on the subject device and the equivalent device. So we generate keywords related to state of art, and then the subject device and equivalent device, if any. So we cover almost all the articles related to the product, and to establish the safety and performance of the device. So this is the best route by which we can demonstrate the safety and performance of the device, the clinical evaluation route. And coming to next is need for clinical investigation or PMCF activity. So to support a decision that no clinical investigation is needed, document a detailed gap analysis with respect to new design features or materials, new claims, indications, target populations. Even if there is a slight change in target population design, or if any new claim comes up, or if there is any new clinical indication or types of users, so you have to go for clinical investigation. So invasiveness, duration of use, the number of applications, the seriousness of direct or indirect risk, incorporation of medicine substances or use of animal tissues, Then any new development in the state of art. So if there is any new medical alternative with lower risk or more extensive benefit, new or there is any new emerging risk, then you have to go for clinical investigation. Coming to more post-market clinical follow-up, so it is PMCF activities are taken up for the products which are already CE marked and they are available in the market. This meeting is going to get ended in 10 minutes. Okay. So if there is if you find any residual risk or there is uncertainty regarding medium and long-term performance, safety under widespread use and rare complications. Okay. So we have to go for PMCF activity. So PMCF activity may not be required for medium or long-term safety and clinical performance are already known from previous use of the device. So if there's a product in the market for a long time, so we can give that rationale that we have not done PMCF activity, but PMCF study is required for high-risk devices like surveys, so follow-ups of the device. So where other post-market surveillance activities would provide sufficient data to address the risk. So PMS activities also give you inputs for the risk. So this is for low risk, but for high risk device, you have to perform PMCF study or you have to perform a PMCF trial. So PMCF plan is going to specify the methods and procedures for proactively collecting and evaluating clinical data with the aim of confirming the safety and performance of the device throughout its expected lifetime. So this process is going to continue throughout the lifetime of the device. So if the product is there for 20 years or 20 years, you have to, you have to update your files. Identifying the previously unknown side effects and monitoring the identified side effects and contraindications. Identify and analyze the emergent risk on the basis of factual evidence. Ensuring the continued acceptability of the benefit risk ratio. Yeah, the benefit risk ratio is very important. So you have to mitigate all the risks in the risk file as far as possible. And the benefit should outweigh the risk which is available in the risk management file. So identify the possible systematic misuse or off-label use of the device with a view to verify the intended purpose is correct. So these are the different objectives in a PMCF plan, what we look for. And what should PMCF plan include? It should include at least the general methods and procedures of PMCF to be applied, such as gathering of clinical experience, feedback from the users, screening of scientific literature and other sources of clinical data. The specific methods and procedures of PMCF to be applied, such as evaluation of suitable registers or PMCF studies, the rationale of the appropriateness of the methods and procedures, specific objectives to be addressed by PMCF, any evaluation of clinical data, the harmonized standards, and the time schedule of the PMCF activity where you're going to perform the analysis. So this was about clinical evaluation and PMCF. Now let's summarize, how we start. So we start with clinical evaluation plan, identify the data source, identify the type of evaluation, that is whether you're following a clinical investigation or a clinical evaluation route, search for the literature or other clinical data, demonstrate the equivalency, appraise the data, analyze the data, then go for PMS plan, PMCF plan, PMCF evaluation report, PSUR report. Now, periodic safety update report is for higher classes, class 2B, 3, sometimes class 2A is also, we write PSUR. Then finally, we write the clinical evaluation report. Thank you. If you have any questions, we can take it up.
Yeah, ma'am, I have one question, ma'am. Can I ask, ma'am?
Yeah, sure.
Ma'am, what is the main difference between the PSU, or periodic safety update report, and the PMCF, ma'am, post-market clinical follow-up?
The main difference, okay. PSUR report, like we write PMS plan and PMS report. Similarly, we write PMS plan and PSUR report. So instead of PMS report, we generate a PSUR report. So PSUR report will have the sales information, then our strategy, how we evaluate the complaints, and how we try to mitigate the risk which has been generated from the PMS data. So PSUR report is for high class devices. So for class 1 device, we write PMS report, but for class 2A, 2B, 3, we go for PSUR report. But PMCF it's a post-market clinical follow-up. So when you have put the product in the market and it is CE marked, then we go for PMCF activity. But PSUR is like we generate the report for getting the CE marking. So that's the difference between PMCF and PSUR. I hope it's clear.
Can you give any one example with one product so it's more easy to understand?
Example, okay. Okay, so let's say I have an ECG device, okay. So if ECG device is for recording, the heart activity of the patient. So my ECG product is already there in the market. So what we performing? Somebody's traveling over. There is a lot of background noise. Can you mute it? Yeah, please. Thank you. So what happens is we have our product in the market. It is CE marked and it is running good. Okay. But we want to perform, we want to understand if there is any residual risk or not. So we perform PMCF activity. So we include, we select the sample size. We also take the ethical committee into consideration. So we take an approval from the ethical committee where, where we say that, we generate our plan and we go as per that plan. So we use that ECG machine on the patients and we collect the data and we try to see if there is any residual risk. So if there is any residual risk, we try to, correct it using some corrective measures, and we report that in the risk file. And we also, we generate all these data and we put it in the PMCF report. Okay. Now, if you're talking about PSUR report, like let's say for an implant, so the implant is there in the market and we have PMS data available. So we will collect all the PMS data from the different countries where it is sold. We will know what is the sales. We will try to understand how many complaints we got from which places. And, we can get feedback from the people who are already using it. So we will take the feedback from the the person who has implanted, the clinician who has implanted, and the user. The target population is going to be the patient who is using the implant. So we collect the feedback from them and we put that in our what do you call it, PSCR report. So we generate what is benefit risk ratio here. We try to understand with respect to sales how many complaints were there and how it is mitigated, and we try to show up that in PSCR report. So that is the difference. I hope you understood.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. The PSUR is similar to the PMS. It's right, ma'am. So it's applicable for the high risk class devices.
Right. Who is
The
asking?
PMCF.
May I know who is asking the
Yeah,
question?
yeah. This is Mukesh, ma'am.
Okay, Mukesh.
Yeah.
Can we have your videos on, because we hardly meet?
Yeah.
If
Yes, ma'am.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So do we have any more questions? Somebody is traveling. It seems there's a lot of disturbance. If you can just mute it.
Ma'am, I have a query.
Yeah.
How often these clinical evaluations are done, like even for class 3 or class 4 medical devices? Like, is there any tenure that is normally being followed?
Yeah, it is decided by the manufacturer. Like for low risk devices, it has to be updated annually. For high risk device, sorry, for within 2 years. No. So for high risk devices, we do it annually. For low risk devices, it can be done every 2 years. So it is decided by the manufacturer how it goes. Like, if